guys, and welcome back to NHL News Recap, the show where we break down all the latest NHL news, all the latest trade rumors that you need to know about. We got a lot to talk about today with a potential Carey Price trade, Clayton Keller denying trade allegations, Nick Robertson potentially being done with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a lot more. So make sure you watch till the end for all the trade rumors, all the news, and make sure you hit that subscribe button because this channel is the place to be if you don't want to miss a single thing in the hockey world. Now let's talk about the first big piece of news here today. As we get closer and closer to training camp, it's actually about a trade for a player that will never play in the NHL again, and that is Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens, who has been in media a lot the last year, talking about his situation and how, of course, he has let himself to step away from the game of hockey, and what could happen afterwards with the Montreal Canadiens. And when we look at Carey Price's situation, he makes $10.5 million for the next 3 seasons, but is on long-term injury reserve by the Habs. Even though he is an LTIR candidate, it seems like we could see a trade involving Carey Price like we've seen with a lot of other LTIR players in the past. Just think about the Arizona Coyotes and the LTIR guys they have. Carey Price could be in the same situation. Then we have this article by the Hockey Writers saying the Canadiens could be working on something big, including a Carey Price trade. The Canadiens' strategic focus on safeguarding cap space has been a visible theme in their recent decisions, as highlighted by Arvin Basu in this coverage for The Athletic. The commitment raises intriguing questions about their future plans, whether it involves a significant acquisition or prudent consideration for emerging young talent. Pierre LeBrun and Michael Russo of The Athletic believe GM Ken Hughes might be saving up for something big. And then goes on to say, General Manager Mark Bergevin's successful offloading of Shea Weber's contract demonstrates a degree of flexibility, igniting speculation about the possibility of addressing Carey Price's contract. Although Price's deal poses considerable challenges with 3 more years at a $10.5 million average annual value, the idea that he could be moved shouldn't be dismissed entirely. And according to Ken Hughes, he said this: I think there's always a possibility to do things. I don't know what it looks like, but I don't know ultimately if that ever happens, but I certainly wouldn't describe it as an impossibility. So it seems like we could see a potential LTIR Carey Price trade in the works, which wouldn't surprise me all too much. Of course, with the cap, even though it is on the LTIR, it is a huge contract that they could offload. We'll see if a team like Arizona or some other team that has a lot of that cap space to burn could be bringing on a contract like that is pretty insured and has been paid off quite a bit. So we'll see what happens. For Montreal, though, it could provide a little bit of flexibility, but at the same time, trading Carey Price seems crazy to me. He is such a face in Montreal, such a face of that franchise, and also with him being traded to another team, you have less possibility of him really working with the team, obviously, and that's a big thing. I remember with Ben Bishop, it was in a strange situation with his contract and not being able to work with the Stars until the contract ended, but if you go to a team like Arizona, you obviously have to have even less affiliation than if you were just on LTIR, and that could pose maybe some problems for Carey Price specifically, who has obviously been so engaged in the conversation in Montreal with Montreal management and everything, and could even land a spot with Montreal management in the future too. So we'll see if maybe that damages some of that, but at the same time for the Habs, if it's a deal they can make, then they absolutely should. And then we got this little bit from Carey Price, specifically in another article by the Hockey Writers, and it says this: Carey Price says he's open to helping the team via trade. Carey Price's heartfelt statement on Tuesday revealed that he won't be returning to the NHL. He noted, when I do certain things on a consistent basis, it's a very solid reminder that my knee is not in a position to take the brunt of a full season's workload. But with a touch of sadness, he added, it's just not going to happen. Talk of a possible trade to move his contract has popped up, and he noted it really wasn't up to him and that everyone knows hockey is a business. He added, I'm going to be a Montreal Canadian for the rest of my life, and I'm very proud to do that, so I'm willing to help this team in any aspect. And that from Carey Price, I guess, kind of makes it a little bit more sure if there is a trade that he wouldn't take it all too personally and wouldn't really be involved much with the team that he would be being traded to. It's just for contract reasons, just for statistics, it's just for accounting, really, at the end of the day. And Carey Price will be a Montreal Canadian for life. He won't play with any other team, which is great to hear. But again, noting that his heart is still in Montreal, his heart will always be in Montreal, no matter what. Also wanted to mention a couple of notes in the same article. Seth Jones up for the role as Blackhawks captain. This one is interesting. The Blackhawks are currently without a captain following the departure of longtime leader Taves, and while there has been some chatter about how quickly the Blackhawks should consider Connor Bedard for the role, considering he's going to be the face of the franchise, most believe it's too soon to put that kind of pressure on him. With the captaincy now vacant, defenseman Seth Jones wants to assume the role. In an interview with Tracy Myers of NHL.com, Jones Jones revealed that he's always aspired to be a captain, drawing inspiration from great leaders like Taves, Shea Weber, and Nick Foligno. He emphasized his understanding of the leadership role within the team, underlying his commitment to being a guiding presence in the locker room, regardless of whether he wears the captain's letter on his jersey. So this is interesting. In a post I made on Twitter about the potential vacancies in the NHL captaincy-wise, I had Seth Jones as the next Blackhawks captain. A lot of people said, though, that maybe some patience would be needed for Chicago to ultimately make Bedard the captain in a few years' time. I want to know for you guys down below, would you rather make Seth Jones the captain now or wait a few years when Connor Bedard is truly ready? Which would you really choose if you're Chicago? Also, some interesting bit of Calgary Flames news. Mikael Backlund is still in the same place mentally. Sportsnet's Eric Francis recently caught up with Mikael Backlund and asked about his perspective on a future with the Flames. Backlund earlier let it be known that he would not sign an extension early and wanted to see how the season unfolded before deciding. Backlund affirmed, "I'm still feeling that way." Now, interestingly about Calgary, we heard some other news from Eric Francis leaning towards Rasmus Andersson, Swedish D, being the captain of the Flames this next season, and that makes a lot of sense. With Backlund's kind of uneasiness in re-signing, I feel like that's a situation where you just can't make him captain. If he was signed long-term, Eric Francis also noted that he was the obvious choice. Backlund would have been the captain if he was a little bit more sure about a long-term extension, but since he is not, Rasmus Andersson will likely wear the C for Calgary. Now, next up, let's go on to Clayton Keller and some weird trade rumors with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, let's get into it. This part from the Hockey Writer is saying Keller denies a trade request, no knowledge of a deal to Toronto. In May 2023, Elliotte Friedman made a significant revelation during an episode of 32 Thoughts. He disclosed that Clayton Keller's agents had held discussions with the Arizona Coyotes regarding the franchise's future direction. The team had been grappling with issues like poor attendance, competitiveness, and no clear path to a new arena. Rumors began circulating that Keller might consider requesting a trade. However, during an on-ice conversation with Phoenix Sports, Keller responded to inquiries about trade demands and the rumor that he might have been discussed in a deal that would send him to Toronto for William Nylander. Keller responded with a chuckle and clarified, "No, that's not true. I'm solely focused on my game and our team here. I genuinely love this group of guys, and this is where I want to be right now." And everything that we've seen over the past couple months, really, Clayton Keller has come out so often saying that he wants to stay in Arizona, he wants to be here, he wants to be with AZ and those group of players. And it seems like as of right now, there might have been some rumors in the past, maybe even earlier this year, that Keller could be gone. But it seems like no matter what, Keller will be staying with Arizona. Now, interestingly, keeping on the Leafs here, let's talk about Nick Robertson, who has been a highly touted prospect in the past for the Leafs, but has seemingly lost a ton of momentum due to injuries and just poor performance. And this part by the Hockey Writers breaks it down really interestingly about his role maybe this next year with the Leafs. And it says, "Don't expect Nick Robertson to make an impact with the Maple Leafs this next year. Nick Robertson's path with the Maple Leafs has been influenced by waiver exempt status, as he was sent to the AHL's Marlies last season despite deserving an NHL spot. This season, as the Leafs grapple with salary cap constraints, the 22-year-old remains exempt from waivers and seeks to return after a shoulder injury halted his 2022 campaign. As Luke Fox of Sportsnet points out, Toronto's left-wing depth chart presents a competitive field, with Robertson vying against Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, Matthew Knies, and Sam Lafferty. Among them, only Knies enjoys waiver exemption, making his NHL prospects enticing. It's likely that GM Brad Treliving will allow Robertson to rebuild his strength and confidence in the minors before a potential mid-season call-up. Injuries are a reality, and Robertson in a contract year has much to prove as Leafs assess his future with the organization. Health permitting, he'll have another opportunity to stake his claim in the NHL. And that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about the course of the left wing depth the Leafs acquired this last offseason with Bertuzzi, with Domi coming in, and obviously Knies taking that next step. It leaves Robertson in a horrible situation. I mean, last year, of course, it felt like that was his year to kind of make it. This year, it felt like even more of his year to kind of make it if he was going to do it. And just with the logjam on forward, Nick Robertson is kind of left in the dust. It's sad to see with how solid he was just a couple of seasons ago, but that's what injuries can do. That's what inconsistencies can do your stock. And right now, Robertson's on the outside looking it. Let us know in the comments down below, though. Do you guys think Nick Robertson is a bust up to this point? Do you give up on him? Do you still think he has the opportunity to break into the NHL? The injuries have been a major thing preventing him from that, and that's sad to see. But do you think there is still a chance that he actually is able to make it? I'd love to know, y'all. Now, interestingly, onto some Canucks trade rumors here. Is a Tyler Myers trade finally coming? Blake Price raised an interesting point in an interview with John Shannon of the Harris and Price podcast, highlighting the impending bonus deadline for Tyler Myers on September 15th. He pondered whether September might break from tradition and become more active in terms of player movement, and Myers would be the first big name to drop. John Shannon did say that only the Canucks will be willing to pay Myers' bonus. Once that was done, he speculated about the potential interest from other teams. Could a team like the San Jose Sharks, led by GM Mike Greer, see Myers as a valuable addition to their blue line? line, might there be other teams eyeing Myers for a 5-6 role, believing he could be a significant difference in their lineup. As September 15th approaches, it'll be intriguing to see how much that Myers trade talk picks up, or if two teams had a deal in the bag and were really good about keeping it a secret. Now, this is interesting to me because I feel like we talked about Tyler Myers and a potential trade a lot over the last couple of years, but I feel like, honestly, unless Vancouver finds a deal that, for cap at least, is really enticing and brings in a lot of extra space, I really don't see Vancouver doing that, especially with how much they wanted to improve their defense. Tyler Myers in a 5-6 role is perfectly fine, and even though the cap hit is a lot for that, I think their defense is, at least now, the most solidified it's been in a while, which I know is a very, very low bar, but it's still at the same time, I think, especially heading into the season, they want to maybe test the waters and see if Myers can bring it in a bottom pair role. That's what I would expect with Vancouver. I don't think they'd jump the gun and trade a D at this stage, especially since their defense has so much to prove, and that's almost one of the main things holding them back. I think they'd want to have it as strengthened as humanly possible, and unless they can find a younger, cheaper, better D, I really don't see that trade happening, and I really don't see a lot of teams trading that type of piece in a Myers deal either. Now let's go on to a couple of strange rumors here. First things first, let's go to this one. Would the Bruins look at Steven Stamkos if he shakes free from Tampa Bay? Kevin Paul Dumont, who has had some horrible tweets in the past, really bad takes, a writer for the Boston Globe, has raised an intriguing question about Steven Stamkos' future with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He suggests that it might be premature to speculate on Stamkos' post-contract plans, but raises the possibility of the star player exploring free agency. The prospect could make Tampa fans uneasy, especially after losing veteran player Alex Killorn to the Anaheim Ducks. And Dupont articulates in his piece, if Stamkos decides to test free agency waters, there would be considerable interest from numerous teams, including the Boston Bruins. Like Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, Stamkos is a right-shot center who showcased his skills of a career-high 106 points just 2 seasons ago. While he's logged significant ice time over the years, he remains a valuable and elite contributor who can maintain his performance for another 3 to 4 years. So, Stamkos to the Bruins, I don't think I would even believe this with any sort of not even a grain of salt. I mean, I think giving a grain of salt to this is a little bit much, especially considering how loyal he has been to Tampa Bay. I don't see him leaving. I mean, you saw what happened, I believe, in 2016, where, you know, he had the opportunity to take massive money, but stayed in Tampa Bay and stayed for a long time. And now we're seeing finally that contract end. So to me, even if he does go to free agency, there is no shot he goes to the Bruins. To me, he has already shown that money is not the highest priority. And sure, Boston maybe could give him the highest offer, but I don't think he goes to a division rival and goes to something as immediately competitive to Tampa Bay as Boston. Maybe to some, like a Californian team, I could see that, just like Alex Killorn did. But to me, for Stamkos at least, money isn't the problem. I know he wants to win as much as humanly possible again with Tampa Bay, get as many cups as possible. And to me, him leaving in free agency in the first place, take that with a grain of salt, honestly. Now on to this last one here, an update on the Blues and Maple Leafs trade rumors for William Nylander. Of course, with William Nylander and his contract situation, a lot of trade rumors happening, but over the last few years, we've heard so much about the Blues and them potentially trading one of their D to the Leafs for one of their star forwards like Nylander or potentially Mitch Marner. And it says this, as part of a mailbag article, The Athletic's Jeremy Rutherford was asked if there was anything cooking on the rumors that linked the Blues and the Maple Leafs. Specifically, a reader wanted to know Torrey Krug or Colton Parayko being part of a package for William Nylander was accurate. And Rutherford responded, many readers are going to be upset that I'm even responding to the question since the rumor is older than some of my socks. It's in the headlines again, and I get why. Nylander needs a contract and could be on the move, but as I've written in the past, the Parayko-Nylander ship likely sailed a long time ago, and just one of those rumors that won't go away. Rutherford adds that even in the scenario where Torrey Krug is in good health, which it looks like he now is not, Toronto has no intention of pursuing this trade. In the event that the Leafs opt to trade William Nylander due to contract considerations, they can anticipate far more enticing offers from potential suitors. And, I mean, this makes a lot of sense. To me, if I'm the Leafs, I mean, Parayko is in a weird spot, although defensively he's fantastic. His all-around game, and especially the offensive impact, has fallen off a cliff. And I mean, it depends on how much you're able to keep Parayko, and of course the cap hit that could be involved there, but it seems like for now, those rumors have been put to bed. Now, for the last thing I want to mention today, we have a really interesting thing here about potential relocation and expansion with the NHL, and it says this, the NHL is open to a return in Atlanta. NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley expressed optimism during an interview with Greg Wyshynski of ESPN regarding the prospect of the NHL return to Atlanta for a third time, suggesting that circumstances might yield better results this time around. Daly pointed out that the challenges facing Atlanta in the past can be surmountable due to significant changes in market demographics and the presence of larger businesses in the city compared to the previous NHL ventures in the area. However, it's important to note that expansion is not currently a top priority for the NHL. As stated by Gary Bettman, despite this, Daly emphasized the league's willingness to consider a potential new markets for NHL hockey. He noted there are potential markets that may be suitable for NHL hockey, so our policy is really an open door policy. If you're interested and have a plan, come see us, and certainly we'll evaluate it from there. If it becomes something our owners are interested in, we can pursue it. Nothing has risen to that level currently, but that could change. And to me, it is fascinating because even back then with the Thrashers, they were a team that never won a playoff game, and they still didn't have the worst attendance in the league, which I think is incredible. I mean, I think they're in a similar position as Arizona, where if that culture is built the right way, then the fans will come. And I think it's in a much better position than even Arizona to acquire new fans, to have diehards. There's still tons of fans in Atlanta that would come back for the Thrashers. And if they're in a much better spot, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And I do think that third time's the charm could work. But the team has to actually work in the first place, because all throughout its entire tenure, it was a disaster. If they can just be somewhat competent, I think Atlanta could be a pretty strong NHL market. And if we're talking about growth, Atlanta is one of the biggest markets the NHL could go to, alongside Houston, and get a lot of growth and a lot of new fans out of it, if it does work, which the Thrashers certainly did not. But I want to know, are you open to an NHL relocation expansion team into Atlanta again? Do you want to see the Thrashers come back? What would you like to see out of another Atlanta franchise? Let us know down below. And let us know down below about everything we talked about today. A lot of rumors, a lot of news broken down, but I hope you guys did enjoy. A lot more recaps coming in the future, so hit that subscribe button if you're new and enjoying it. And hit that like button if you enjoyed as well. Comment down below all your thoughts on all the rumors, all the news, and make sure you share the video of all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the trade rumors out to them so they can see all the juicy little details. And I will see you in the next one. Make sure you click on this card for all my hockey news content right in one playlist, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.